We are born, and that's all the potential that's free for us to explore. In the family, we're taught right from wrong, so our intellect reacts. When potential arises, you notice it, and it responds. I don't want this, put it here, I want this, and it starts working with that. See, from one big sheet, how many things you'll never go back to in life and explore again. That thing inside me that reacts, you need to examine it. All these illnesses, all this being affected, comes exactly from such low vibrational programs. They settle in your heart, hands, or legs, creating a physical manifestation of that energy.
That's the source. We put a period.
We focus to a point.
Systematically, 99% of us ask the question or ask people, what do you see? A point. How is it just a point? Well, what about the whole white sheet? Everything else that was there before and you noticed it. Where did it go? Well, that's the source.
You come home and someone has been annoying you the whole time. So you start arguing with that person across from you, and you make this self-awareness literally step aside a bit and pay attention to where the reaction starts inside you. During that argument, for example, pain in the solar plexus, headache, heaviness in the arm, at some point the argument ends and you separate yourself and ask yourself a question. What was the reason that led us to argue, and why did I have that feeling in that area of my body? The same question should be asked by those people when they go to work tomorrow. Does this make me happy?
Yes.
Is this what I wanted from life? These are some questions.
How ready am I to keep going?
I'm paying some kind of price. The price I'm paying? Is it worth it?
Am I still willing to pay it?
Who suffers from this? You or others? The real issue is that you suffer, but you get mad at others because it's easier.
Today I once again have the honor to introduce a guest who can boast of being the only one who has participated so far across all 3 seasons of Reality Explorers. As tradition, he returns, sometimes at the beginning, sometimes somewhere in the middle. The timing is unclear, so we can see how far we've come in a different way, a more global perspective on what's happening inside us right now, and as a result, what we're ready to do on the outside. To mix up, as we like to joke, once again our points of view, perceptions, and everything we thought we knew. It is my great pleasure to once again welcome Engineer Boris Minkov. Thank you for joining us again on Reality Explorers.
And I also welcome the 100 faces of the wolf. Why so many wolf faces, right? That's interesting. I've always seen you that way. How our name gives us the reality that we actually create, right? When we think about what Yan means. Yan basically transforms, awakens, Yan does, Yan starts and leads. You reflected on how, from a young age, you sat in front of the monitor and began developing yourself with your Yan helping you grow. In the next moment, you start creating content for others, and they begin to watch you. At one point, just like with the wolf, you basically create a pack. And in this way, you see how the name is a reflection of your reality. For me, the name is Boris. I'm constantly fighting.
With everything around you?
With everything around me. Things never work out the first time. So the question is whether the name manipulates reality or not. On that note, since I started working with ChatGPT...
Like all of us.
Like everyone, yeah.
I just want to make a quick note. When we were arranging our next meeting, this time, unlike before, you came up with all sorts of ideas for plans and concepts to include in today's conversation. To bring people into our space, you brought us something to fill the space. What is that thing?
Well, in this case, it's an amethyst druce. An amethyst druce. Now, specifically about it, ChatGPT, I deliberately turned to it. What did it say? Amethyst is the stone that aligns the spirit and soul on the solid foundation of true purity. It's quite veiled, but it really does help your mind connect to higher levels and become purer, clearer. How a person is structured. From my point of view, if we assume this is the 0 point, here is the source, here is the plus, here is the minus, respectively +1, +2, +3. My chakras aren't sequential like 1, 2, 3, or -1, -2, -3. What is our task in principle? To balance the plus and the minus respectively. We should always be aware when we're at these different levels of what we can create and what we can do. Here, we will use amethyst to maintain our focus and keep vibrations high. So the things we say, at the very least, won't harm people later when they watch this show. It's also helpful to stay grounded, so I brought some tourmaline. What makes tourmaline unique? Tourmaline grounds, teaches, strengthens willpower, clears the mind, restores self, aligns relationships, frees the soul, and protects family. It's really important for a person to be both grounded and elevated, but you should always return to your heart so you can judge this plus and minus in harmony and keep them in balance. That's why I've brought into our field, which you and I are about to create together, this balance and this lightness. I hope for thoughts, for
the thoughts, yes, thank you for bringing it. People, or most people, know you because our first conversations were about your personal out-of-body experiences. You actually introduced them. That's how I do it when I look back. It was very interesting because when we started Reality Explorers, the whole energy on YouTube and in Bulgaria in general was very hidden. Let's call it that. People were still very timid about this kind of phenomenon on Bulgarian YouTube compared to other funny, let's call them even crude, types of content. Back then, you were one of the first who boldly stated, even allowing me to quote you. You lie down, close your eyes, and from there on, there are many worlds, a lot to tell, and a lot of journeys to take. After that, sometime later, when the first season ended, you visited us again, this time in a broader format where we also talked about Carlos Castaneda and about perception, in general the point of view, how we are not aware at every moment where we are and we can't use it in the most adequate way. And what would happen if we used it? And today we are meeting in a very different meeting, which at least feels very different, in which things are much more open. Because people, my guests before you, all somehow follow this trend of being very open. They are already starting to express more freely what is in their hearts. That's what you said too. And along those lines, I have an open question for you. Since we are creating a field, what do you think the human field is? And is it an instrument? Is it a mask, trench coat, suit, or a compromise of consciousness?
Yes, I have prepared a little information.
We started
about the field, now let's reach it. That's right. Our friend ChatGPT, we ask it about the main energies in the human field. Why am I asking this question? A person is perceived as some kind of whole, as complete I am. He thinks he is monolithic. Yes, but that's not the case. If we pay attention to what he says, the human field is not just one thing. It's a combination of vital, emotional, mental, heart, and spiritual energy. Yin and Yang are the two principles that drive all of this. When they are in balance, the person is whole. Whole yet composed. And you need to be aware of all of them. These separate elements, and to be able to work with them individually and to create balance so you can be whole. This is very important. You know, now each energy individually has its own characteristics. For life energy, what does it say? Breathing, food, movement, the earth's field, that's prana, chi, different names can be used for this energy. Emotional energy is the field that reacts and vibrates. Emotions are energy in motion in a person, like joy, fear, love, and sadness. This layer is the most changeable and affects the body the fastest, and we notice this very well when someone offends us. How quickly this emotion, this energy, moves through the body and how fast your state and vibration change. That's why we've placed the stone, to keep the vibration higher, to not allow the vibration to become low. Because when a vibration is higher, what we create as reality is many times more beautiful and pleasant to experience. Mental energy includes logic, imagination, belief, and focus. Next is heart energy, the balance where yin and yang meet. Here you feel empathy, which is very important but often lacking today. I would say this is the most important tool, and it would be good for everyone, without exception, to restore their empathy. That pure presence, love with no reason. How many truly love unconditionally?
Unconditionally.
Yes, without a reason, there is no reason. Love is all-encompassing. Why should there be a reason to love or, for example, to be happy? There's no logic. You're like a spring. Just radiate, and everything becomes beautiful without problems. So, the people around you, even though they're not always very happy, because if they have lower vibrations, they might react the wrong way.
Now here, yes, okay.
Spiritual energy, along with intuition and inner wisdom, also declines. The higher self, accordingly, we see that this is composite, this is composite. However, to become whole, we need to realize this compositeness,
This content.
this content that is within us.
That's according to ChatGPT. What do you think this thing is? What is the human body? Looking at it from a different perspective, not the physical one, aside from all the biological mechanisms and chemical reactions happening in it, what do you think it is?
Well, the physical body is a vessel.
A vessel?
Yes. The spirit is there, the soul is there too, but not as a place that they occupy, but as a way to limit themselves so they can have the corresponding experience. Because in the energy world, the limitations are much fewer, while in the physical world, we see how many there are. We've lost even our own memory. As a result, we experience so many different emotions. If we don't lose, if we don't have this limitation, that's why we say the physical world, we are limited. The eye sees certain frequencies, the ears hear certain frequencies, and our senses have a certain limit. And this vessel actually helps you to see, to experience something completely different from what you would if you were only a soul or only a spirit. Everyone says that, the source experiencing itself. Instrument.
Which part do you disagree with? How do you see it?
Why should I disagree with anything at all as a concept? I've gotten rid of disagreement within myself.
How does that work?
Well, by working on myself, I saw that it's pointless. Why is it pointless? Because maybe, let me explain how the intellect works. That's very interesting. Look at this example, you'll like it, because in this container, when we enter, we've been given a tool called intellect. Sharp like a knife, it cuts everything it touches. How does the intellect work? Well, if you want to get to know your pet, you probably won't be happy to cut it open and see what's inside. But in reality, that's what the intellect does. It cuts
Into pieces.
into pieces so that the mind can grasp all these pieces and make sense of them. And when we are born, our family, our mother and father develop exactly this skill in us. We are born, and this is the whole potential, the freedom that we can explore. This blank sheet is exactly that potential. Family teaches us right from wrong. The mind gets involved, potential arises, you see it, and to simplify, I'll fold it. We take it, and it does this. Subscribe. I don't want this. He puts it here, I want this. And he starts working with it. We lost half of the potential. In the next moment, this is figurative so that a person can really understand it. He does exactly the same, folds again at the next encounter with some event and rejects again. He discards it, sets it aside, and works only with this. And so we'll make another cut. He cuts it. We put it aside here. See, from one big sheet, how many things you'll never go back to in life and study them again. That's already the end of your life. You're wise, old, and as people say, your mind has crystallized.
Yes.
You could publish your memoirs, make a movie, and people would call you cool. And I realized that I'm losing the mobility of my neural connections, that plasticity. So what do? The cup is full, so I can't add anything else. And I realize that I feel empty, even though I'm full to the brim, because I can't work with that space anymore. Well, I threw the cup away. And I started filling it again. I forgave myself and reclaimed everything.
But how does that happen?
You find it and decide that's final. I forget everything I've been taught and start learning all over again. That's the formula.
But what does a person need to do to come to the conclusion that the only solution is to start over and forget everything? That's not an easy thing.
It depends on how many times life has slapped you. In these cases, people start to complain. Why does this always happen to me? I'm tired and I don't want any more, and they don't see the solution. How did it happen for me? It's a combination of many things, maybe it's also the way I'm wired. Honestly, my reactions are quite different to events that are ordinary. Others react one way, I react another. Maybe it's something that's ingrained in me. Yes, look, I just thought of it now. Because there's another interpretation of our names, it will be interesting. It will fit well with the conversation here. For example, your name is Stoyan Volkov.
Right.
The one who speaks the truth clearly brings stability, creates reality, connects spirit and matter, protects his family, and leads through knowledge and instinct.
Oh, that sounds like a kit for the perfect person.
All right, watch me, Boris Minkov. The teacher-creator who acts with strength, moves spiritual energy, speaks the truth, understands the deeper reasons, protects the family line, and leads with light. Maybe even in the very name, when they gave us the start, all of this was already embedded. And maybe that's the reason I came to this decision, that I can humble myself in such a way that I truly forget everything I know and start over.
Now, there are many things we'll include here, but before that, I want to ask you, what is the most important lesson that comes to you right now that you've learned outside the physical body in your experiences? And one that you absolutely wouldn't have believed if someone had told you before that you would learn it, that only in this way would you learn it?
Well, which lesson? I wouldn't even call them lessons, but perceptions. The perception is different. When we came here, since we both love drones, you lost yours, found it.
That's right.
I try not to lose them. But it happens. And what did I demonstrate to you with this seemingly simple drone, which we think can't teach us anything? Because...
A technique, a simple external technique?
Yes, an external technique.
There's nothing spiritual about it?
It's not spiritual, but as they say, in the image and likeness, as above, so below. I put the glasses on you, we started the video, turned on the drone, and you started looking only through the drone's camera.
That's right.
We put the drone on your head and you started moving your head left, right, up and down. At one point I said, I'll show you how to separate from the body. Then I put on the drone and began moving. You stay in one spot, but your whole view matches what the drone sees.
My focus is on the image.
You can't be anywhere else. You're already here. And that's exactly what happens. That's the body, soul, spirit leaving, I can't say, but the body remains here. I said, now you'll see yourself, and pointed the drone at you. How did you feel?
That you are where you are flying, not where your body is.
Exactly, that's it.
You feel yourself and your consciousness in a different place from where your body is.
If we explain it, is it the same? It's not the same. But if I show you, or if you experience it, that's it.
That's how it is, and in a sense, if you think about it, people are very good at disproving all kinds of theories, all kinds of spoken words. But actually, a very small percentage of us are the ones who are willing to try it, just for the sake of the test, just to see if it's really like that. Even if they're told by many that it won't work, it's wrong, not done that way, or dangerous, with certain consequences. Until it happens to you, it may feel different, and history has many examples of this.
And immediately the question arises, why is it like that with people? That's a great question. Why are humans like that?
One point of view, if we discuss the human form and the physical body as a factor, is that we can approach it from the hereditary perspective, which is the linear point of view. There are subdivisions here too. Some would say that we are the result of different ancestral lines before us, all the way back to the first one, while others would say that we come from and are descendants of long-forgotten civilizations, Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, Hyperborea, and so on. The second point of view, which is more global, is the quantum perspective. For me, this creates a kind of confusion, both in the internet space and in our consciousness, collectively, which leads to division. Because on one hand, we come from somewhere and everything is linear, so we are supposed to be their descendants. And on the other hand, from the quantum perspective, everything exists simultaneously, everything is equally probable, everything is in this very moment. Let's work through this together, but I'd prefer to start with the first point of view before moving to the quantum one. Do you agree?
All right, okay. In my opinion, there's no paradox, there's no confusion, there's no first or second.
I'm glad you're confirming that, but I'm saying it based on observations and feedback.
Now, if I start with the first part, for the first part, some kind of, how should I say, some kind of synthesis.
What do you know? There's no point in pretending? I've made shows about Lemuria, Atlantis. People have watched them, they know.
Yes, great shows.
You also have information about what we know and it's clear right now.
Great shows, 3 hours. Even with so much information, you get lost. Your mind stops absorbing, the cup fills, and you feel empty from all the content. Well, here I've taken the most important things about Lemuria, and I'm actually making an analogy between Lemuria, Atlantis, and our human form.
All right.
Now, the most general thing about Lemuria is that it is defined as a gentle civilization. Why? Lemuria is the archetype of pure yin energy, intuitive, connecting, and receptive.
With the heart?
With the heart, the people there.
With nature?
Nature, yes, the people there were not separate from each other. The consciousness was more like a collective field, how important the field is, and when it is collective. The form was much more ethereal. They were not under the same pressure of this density that we are in right now. The Lemurians perceived themselves as part of the earth, not as something on it.
Part of earth, not just on it?
Yes.
Yes, that's very
powerful.
Very powerful.
You are a part, you are not separate. And now people even think they are more important than the universe itself, that everything starts and ends with them. How did we end up here with such nonsense? Atlantida, what is characteristic about it? This is already a transition from yin to yang, which is actually the case. Atlantida brings in the yang principle, actions, technologies, form. There is division, individuality, an experiment with power. What will happen if consciousness starts to shape matter? The Atlantids were masters at structuring energy, but they were tempted by the power over it.
Yes.
The conclusion is that Atlantis is the laboratory where the spirit decides to test what the will can do, which is real. They achieved all these wonders and miracles by willpower compared to our standards.
Yes.
And at one point, we reach the human form when yin and yang meet, the ethereal Lemurian softness and the bright Atlantean will. The idea of the human form arises. The body becomes an instrument for experience, not a prison. Many people think...
An instrument for experience?
For experience, not a prison. The path is simply a mechanism to experience more deeply. Think about it.
That's really cool because...
Mechanism.
But there's something else, if you think about it. Density is just a mechanism to experience things more fully, so we don't actually need to limit ourselves less, more tightly, more distantly, supposedly to experience things more deeply.
Absolutely, because you already have ignorance. And thanks to that ignorance, all sorts of possibilities can happen. That's why we are such different people. This density allows for that, so the human form is the compromise that consciousness makes in order to experience this reality. But it needs to be balanced and harmonized. Why does it need to be balanced and harmonized? So that the result doesn't become Lemuria or Atlantis, that kind of deviation, although all three are absolutely true. I mean, Lemuria was essential to observe and project events. Then, in Atlantis, we experienced different parameters before reaching humanity. 2 hemispheres.
This thing comes in with a question I've written down. If Lemuria is the soft form, Atlantis is the form of action, of power. In your opinion, which form will dominate in 2025?
That's a tough question. I don't think anything is dominating at the moment. There's no domination. Rather, maybe we should bring into the conversation and into this field what we were talking about with you. What else, besides what we said, exists in the human field?
What else?
What else exists? Well, we won't go too far. Nearby?
How close? 30,000 years before the new era?
No, we're even closer. We take the village of Zlatolist and Prepodobna Stoina, the Church of St. George.
Wonderful.
There are some beautiful images made there. According to the reference they give, it must have been made by Teofil Minov. Teofil was 11 years old. In this image, we see some ordinary scenes from people's lives and various devils that are around them, on them. And they create an additional field? Yes, an additional field. This field, since you asked me what prevails at the moment in the year 2025, well, that's what prevails, the low vibrational, which I call programs. All pains, all problems come from these low vibrational programs. You are a being of light that immerses itself in matter, in the physical body, and in order for this high vibration to lower its frequency, it enters this body.
Yes, okay.
And in order to maintain this, all these programs are introduced.
Subscribe to our channel.
And here you have the dual world.
So, based on what you said, these little devils represent the programs that keep messing with us.
Well, now...
And shaking us, the choices.
The choices, Don Juan described them as flyers. In this case, in our church, they are depicted as devils, as demons. Even in the Bible, Christ takes the demons from a man and puts them into pigs. And they went and drowned, which isn't very humane. He should have just burned them. I'm just joking. So there are also things in my practices which I have done in these so-called closed forums. And now they're not so closed anymore. They can easily be opened up on video channels. There are some where it's like regression hypnosis, and there they do a cleansing of your field. How does this field cleansing happen? Well, there is one. His name is Sleeper, a person who easily enters these states. He can enter your field. The person himself goes through some training. It's like just like they did those regressions with Ivomir. It's the same thing. It's similar, and he starts to explore your field in there.
With your permission.
With your permission. Without your permission, it can't happen. There's no way. Well, you can get in, but it's not good for the one who gets in. Otherwise, so-called devils, demons, or low-vibration programs remain inside and continue their work. In that train of thought, we see how pure children are up to a certain point, and from that point on, because of our upbringing and the fears we've instilled, they are no longer that pure, not like that. They even stop seeing, because this is an 11-year-old child who drew this. They see it.
Is it the reason, or is it us?
Well, low vibration programs close the channel, the high frequency channel, and you stop seeing, you stop thinking, and basically you become their captive there. It's very interesting if you watch a lot of videos like that. Usually a very difficult situation is created for you, in which you agree to receive help from their side, but in return, you have to give something. The contract is written so well that you don't understand anything, but as a result, it turns out that you give away your life energy, mental energy, sexual energy, basically. They start to drain these programs.
Who do you think controls this? And what part do we play in this?
This should be our agreement. Coming down here, we have prepared this for ourselves.
Why would we put such more stressful limiting programs on ourselves?
For the experience, if everything is known, if you understand everything, you can't have such an experience. Being lowly really gives you something that if you are all-knowing and all-powerful, you can't get. There have to be limitations in order to enter these states, these emotions. That's why you see how many things there are in the human field.
Yes.
We think that we are the body, and I am what you have accumulated as systems of beliefs since you were born. And nothing can make you believe that you are anything different. So what needs to happen to you? Some slap from life or a bit of practice. How many people are currently seeking these states through various practices? Why do they feel this is necessary? We have to go back since we've fallen. By the way, this is also present in... Let me check. One moment.
I'm having fun while listening to you, because doesn't it sound really heavy when you say we've fallen a lot? I'm curious how this will be seen, because that way someone might develop a fear, a fear of falling even further.
Why does he need that fear? That fear is pointless. The fall, watch now.
So by the fall, you mean a descent into something denser?
Absolutely right, absolutely right. Words have a certain power, and that power is only as much as the meaning we've given them. Yes, you're right, I need to be careful which words I use. But at the same time, I can't satisfy. Just like I told you last time, life is a task. We have 100 life decisions to make.
Life is a task?
Yes, that's right, and I'm satisfied with my statement, as are those 100 different solutions. That means I have to express 100 different thoughts right now, and everyone can choose the one they like. I've already done this with ChatGPT. It glitched unintentionally. It answered one of my questions, but there was also an option below to refresh. I refreshed, and it gave me a different answer, and that's when I got interested. And again, refresh, like at least 100 times. In the end, I deliberately asked it a question and asked it to give me 100 different answers. Now think about it. If you get 100 different answers, how are you supposed to tune yourself to 100 different frequencies and waves in practice? If I give you one, you'll head that way. But if I give you 100, which way will you go? Because I'm talking about quantum and linear. Let's get back to the point.
Yeah.
Do you see what for?
That's what's puzzling for me, because for me,
And it's not a paradox.
it's not.
Where is your attention focused? If it's here, that's one thing. If it's there, that's another. If it's in the heart, that's different. You have 7 levels, the so-called chakras. Depending on where you are settled as consciousness, that's what you manifest. That's why the frequencies are different. This grounds you, and this thing elevates you. That's true. But if you've already gone through this, if you've gone through all the chakras to see how you feel, if you've worked with your consciousness, if you've gone out of your body, what could bother you? What could...
Then only the game remains.
Light or darkness?
It's the same thing.
It's the same. Fear exists because you prefer one over the other.
Well said.
And you don't understand the other. This is a game.
I think our conversation will continue very well with what I've prepared for you. This is a very special book for me. I'm not promoting it in any way, but for myself. In Alan Lotz, I find something that the world didn't understand when he was alive, because he is no longer physically alive. But what remains after him, in my opinion, is yet to be understood. If you allow me to read to you and to join in regarding what we are talking about, you can't concentrate and reflect on concentrating at the same time. It sounds kind of silly to say, but the only way to concentrate is to concentrate. When you do it, the idea of doing it vanishes, just as religion disappears when it becomes truly effective. Most claims about how hard acting or concentrating is are nonsense. If we're sitting together at the table and I say, "Please pass me the salt," you just do it without any difficulty. You don't pause to consider the right method or struggle with how to do it. As soon as you pick up the salt shaker, you can focus enough to hand it to me. Here you go. Well, there's absolutely no difference between that and focusing your mental attention to penetrate the nature of reality. I'll continue. If you can focus your mind for 2 seconds, you'll be able to do it for 2 minutes. And if you can do it for 2 minutes, you'll be able to do it for 2 hours. Of course, if you wish to. If you want to make something like that seem terribly difficult, you start thinking about how to count the time. Instead of focusing, you start thinking about whether you're focused, how long you've been focused, and how much longer you can last. All of this completely throws you off the point. Focus for 1 second, and if it slips away and your mind wanders, focus again for a second, then for another. No one ever needs to focus for more than a second at a time. The present one. That's why it's completely beside the point to count your time, to compete with yourself, and to worry about whether you're making progress or succeeding in this art. Nothing different from the old truth about how to make hard work easier by taking it step by step. And so, there is probably another difficulty, and that is that in the state of concentration or focus that we are talking about, and for me, that's what you said too. The conclusion from all of this, from everything that exists, is that if there is a secret, it is in the focus. The greatest secret is focus.
Absolutely, that's where it happens.
That's right, and it is. There's another difficulty, which is that in a state of concentration, of clear, heightened attention, you are not there. In other words, there is no self-awareness. That's because your so-called self is a construct of words, memories, and fantasies that don't exist in immediate reality. The barrier or obstacle that many people feel between words and actions, between symbol and reality, is actually due to the desire to both have your cake and eat it too. We want to enjoy ourselves, but we're afraid that if we lose ourselves, there won't be any pleasure, fun where there's no one left to have fun. Because of this, self-awareness constantly restrains creativity. It's like a chronic self-inflicted impotence, where entire civilizations, this is why I highlighted this excerpt, suffering from an overdose of it, go mad, invent atomic bombs, and blow themselves up. Self-awareness is a break, because it's like stopping a song after every note to listen to the echo and then getting annoyed that you're losing the rhythm. That's how it is with the saying, a watched pot never boils. If you try to watch your mind concentrate, you won't be able to concentrate. And if you do manage to concentrate, but then start watching to see if any insight into reality will come to you, you'll break your concentration. Therefore, true concentration is both curious and obvious. It's a paradoxical state because it combines maximum awareness with minimal sense of ego, and this somehow exposes as false those systems in Western psychology that equate the conscious principle with the ego. It is also the greatest mental capacity and productivity and the least goal-directedness of the mind because you can't concentrate and at the same time wait for a result from the concentration. So, most Westerners who do such things are so intentional about their activities, so obsessed with the idea of doing them, that they actually never do anything. For the same reason, I'm quite suspicious of so much Zen, especially when it means importing the entire purely accidental terminology apparatus of Zen from Japan. All the technical formalities and endless arguments about who has or hasn't achieved Satori, or who has earned how many belts, or who has spent how many hours a day sitting in zazen or meditating. These kinds of things are neither Zen nor yoga, they're just posing and religiosity, more about selfishness and pretentiousness than self-liberation and naturalness. If you really can do the actual thing, meaning if you learn to wake up and immediately focus, you can accept or reject the trappings as you wish. It's up to you. The fear of exoticism shouldn't stop us from enjoying the truly beautiful things that Asian culture and so on have to offer. If you're considering a problem, you're thinking, but don't let yourself reason obsessively or out of nervous habit. In Zen, this is called a leaky mind, like an old barrel with loose hoops that's leaking. Well, I think that's enough medicine for tonight, so let's put the bottle aside, go outside, and look at the moon. That's it. I apologize to everyone for the long digression. This is just part of the beauty of Alan Watts that I wanted to share today. Because just like us, that's the paradox of life for me. No matter how much we try and focus on something and analyze a certain state, intention, situation, event, people, point of view, art, religion, teaching, we move so far away from what we are, from that wholeness that we can't escape, from the one that doesn't exist. You know it? In Tao there is no definition for it. What do we do when there is no definition at all? Who are we when we don't focus, and can we be like that? Here come those, for me, much more, another layer that in no way denies or limits everything we've talked about or what is known so far. In the space, which we can encounter in different videos, but what do we do with that part which, when read like this for a moment, suddenly takes us out of everything?
Now, in my opinion, this shows how East and West differ. Look at how many words. And inside there was a lot of information that can be applied as techniques, as methods of work. These are technologies. But he just summarized them as some information that the mind perceives in a certain way. But getting someone to actually use any of this after reading it is difficult.
He refuses to do it.
Yes, why does it happen like that? Well, maybe, hey, look, now I remember a show I watched there with your colleagues. The boy had a motorcycle accident and an amputation. He had to have the front part of his leg replaced. He has an artificial leg now. And now the host, since she can see the energy world, they decided to do the following experiment, which is actually very revealing, and I really liked it a lot. She told him, look, the physical part is gone, but the energy part of the leg still exists. And she asks him to make some kind of movement so she can tell him in which direction the movement was made. He then makes a movement. She tells him forward and he starts to think, but I actually moved it to the side. But his first thought was the leg forward. Thought is action. Do you see how powerful that is? But how many people will actually understand it? The first thought was, I want my leg to go forward.
First inst, the pure thought, the unfiltered one.
That's what he's talking about. Do you understand the difference between seeing like I do? How could I explain out-of-body experiences if I didn't show it to you this way? Until you decide to start some practice and do it yourself.
And here, have you thought about the fact that the only way we, as humans, use our language, and actually, the only way I can explain something to you, or you to me, is by making an analogy, by making me imagine something, or by saying this is like this, and that. The other way is for me to experience it.
It's very hard since language is like a shadow to me. You don't see the object, you see the shadow.
In what sense do you mean the shadow?
Of the object. And now we're explaining what a tree is, but you haven't seen the tree, right? But we're talking about trees.
Exactly.
They have individuality like us. Does anyone know that? The root system down there is like a network, like...
A network.
A network. How many people realize that? That's why the Lemurians aren't separate from the Earth. They are the Earth.
They are the Earth.
That's the difference. That's exactly what your intellect shows you with this knife. You've cut it, divided it into pieces, that's why it's Tao. You can't explain it. If you try to explain it, it will fall apart because you'll use this tool, you'll have to cut it up for the mind to understand. That's the rational part.
Yes, as Einstein says, logic gets you from A to B, but imagination can take you anywhere.
Yes, but what happens between A and B? We move, see different scenes and pass a train. How does this work in the energy world?
Instantly.
I instantly forget this vibration, I remember the other vibration, and I appear in the place I want.
Alright, so what do we do with those gaps in physical reality that remind us exactly of these possibilities of the energy world? For example, people with super abilities, people who manipulate matter. We know there are many like that in Russia.
Yes, all over the world.
And there are documented cases all over the world, thousands of them. How does this situation stand with them? Someone hands you a coin, and though they're not a magician, the coin suddenly levitates and flies.
Different things can happen. Either your senses can be manipulated or your mind can be manipulated. There are different ways, or maybe there really are abilities that can make matter lose its weight and levitate.
Why do you think this happens and these people exist?
Well, look, for Lemuria, for Atlantis, this wasn't something miraculous or a wonder. However, as we read, they abused these abilities to such an extent that they fragmented matter, and it became necessary to give them a reset. To reset them and send us to solve the problem. That's why in the previous show I said someone really messed up and now we have to solve the problem. I'm not saying this accidentally.
Do you think we're heading toward being a more advanced form, even over time, and to be a unified version of both Lemuria and Atlantis? Something more. I avoid the comparison, but something more natural than them.
I said it before too. We contain all the potentials that they had, and now we have to find a way to balance all of their failures, let's say, or their missteps. We have to somehow find a way to balance them. I'm curious to see how that will unfold since there are already so many people. What are we, 10 billion now? We see different languages, different cultures. And there is a kind of incompatibility between all of this, so we are not made.
In what sense is it incompatibility?
This incompatibility is what I mentioned. When the first and 100th meet, they argue and fight. Just look at how many wars we've set up here, and we're even preparing for new ones right now, including, psychologically, they're preparing us in Europe before the First World War, before the Second World War. Did anyone really want war or expect it? Everyone claims that's nonsense, yet it happened. Why do people let it occur? It's exactly those demons in their fields, those low vibration programs that lead to this. That field is created for you to work with it, not Choco. What did you tell me? What did you do to me? Let me see, Boris, what I have in my field. Let's lighten up the mood a bit right now. I'm shopping in the store. You should see how the demons work, and I see 2 registers open and more people are lined up at one of them. I see a shelf and decide to go around to get ahead of the others. I do, and then my line starts moving slowly.
The man in front of you.
The people I was about to surpass left, and I started wondering, how did I end up here? How could this happen? And now, since I have this second awareness, I start to amuse myself. Honestly, inside, how at first I thought, look, I'll skip the line here, but now see how things turned out. I didn't skip it after all. Well, it turned out exactly the opposite. This kind of observation is something a person needs to bring inside themselves. And for example, now if you offend me somehow, I need to see exactly what inside me
Got hurt.
It hurt me, yes, and I need to start working on it. You are the way you are. I can't change you. What I can do is just not meet with you. Okay, well, thank you. Have a nice day. But that thing inside me that reacts, you need to examine it. So in this group, that's exactly what caught my attention. All these illnesses, all this being affected comes exactly from such low vibration programs. They settle, whether in the heart, in the hands, in the legs, and there is a physical manifestation of this energy there.
We manifest these programs ourselves. They're not something external to us deep down.
If I ask you to define we, how would you define we?
Good question.
How would you define we? By the way, I sent you something in the chat that I think will be quite good for this situation.
All right.
Look, I'm going to read this thing now because it really caught my attention. You are a creator, but not directly of everything. Sometimes you are a participant in a choice, not the author of the whole scene. Where is we in this case? Why do you use we as an expression, as a starting point?
I use it from the point of view of we, or you and I, and every single source. Because then, by immersing yourself from this global point of view, you create a constellation, a galaxy, a planet, which has a collective unconsciousness around it, rules, beliefs, continents, countries, a city, a family, all with different adaptation rules and so on, and reflections. But the moment you as the source manifest them, they are no longer. When you is used, it implies ownership, but they aren't yours. They are independent potential, your reflections and individualities. And here, maybe this is not denial, this is beautifully formulated, because you are a creator, not directly of everything. It means that exactly where we meet, my reality and yours are in different ways. Sometimes I participate simply by waving to show I'm here. Other times, I join directly. I also don't create everything or the whole.
Notice how crucial the starting point is.
It's a matter of perspective.
Yes, the starting point for building this structure. Now this why, does it seem more correct to me? Because you and I don't have all the knowledge, even though we are, you know what we are? Drops from the source, but we are the source itself, whole. As well as Castaneda says, man is snapped, like this, a form has appeared and you are part of all these possibilities. They are closed inside. When you align, the inner serves the outer, and the world appears to you. But if you remain closed and limited, you can't become the whole ocean. You are the drop.
But you can't separate yourself.
You separate yourself through this limitation. It's conditional.
Yes, but here's another analogy that I've prepared, because it's conditional, yes.
Yes, it's conditional to have experiences.
Yes, but if this experience has a starting point, A and B, a beginning and an end, and anyway, it's limited, it's finite, then we return to the infinite, meaning we can't fully separate, understand? In other words, we create the perception that we are separate, so that we can feel and experience separateness, but we can't actually be separate. If we're not connected, we can't even imagine this illusion of separateness. It has to come from the perspective of the whole.
Well, the Indians have quite a few practices. Me Sadhguru gives such explanations, but maybe through practice. If you reach a state where you completely lose the notion of I am and all limitations, then you actually become the ocean. That's exactly what he says, like death.
Because you lose.
And when you come back a little, not everyone's psyche can handle it. Because even Castaneda has quite a few techniques that allow you to enter this state, but then the emotional element that's inside the form will start to suffer.
Yes, and the point here is what you were saying, that while we're together now, we can't experience the whole thing in that way. And that's because our focus is on Boris, on Stoyan. But here comes what I wanted to share with you. You already know it, but maybe it will be interesting for the people. This is a very interesting analogy from the quantum world with the aquarium and the so-called illusion of separation. Because why do I always lean toward all these things, and it's a main topic in what I talk about? Because if we don't realize that if that's even possible, you must be the source before becoming anyone.
Okay?
If we don't understand this, we can't end division in our lives, since we separate ourselves into groups like black, white, and racists. He is better, he is worse than me, he is more deserving than me, and here the analogy becomes very useful. This is an analogy by David Bohm, one of the founding scientists in the field of quantum mechanics. At the beginning he explains he wants to explain the seemingly inexplicable behavior of particles. Why do they behave in this strange, inexplicable way? And he says the following. Imagine an aquarium with a fish swimming in it. Now imagine that you have never seen a fish or an aquarium before. However, you have two television cameras. One is pointed at the front of the aquarium and the other is pointed at the side. On two screens you see two fish, one in profile, one head-on. If you didn't know it's the same aquarium, you might think you're seeing two different creatures. One fish is swimming to the right on the other monitor, the other is moving upward, one suddenly turns back, the other almost simultaneously makes a different but corresponding gesture. What would you think? Maybe the two fish are telepathically coordinating, exchanging signals at incredible speed. Actually, the idea is much simpler. On a deeper level of reality, in the reality of the aquarium itself, there is only one single fish. The cameras show the same object from different angles. Here, the point is that we know from quantum mechanics that a particle is sometimes a particle, sometimes a wave, sometimes it disappears, sometimes it appears. And the idea is exactly that. I agree with all of this. Because for us to have the experience of physical reality, it's necessary, as you say, to set limits in order to explore the unknown. But we explore it thanks to the fact that we are the whole potential. See, this important part is being missed for me, because logically we can't have the experience if we don't have the initial impulse, the information from somewhere. What do you think about this question?
I have an aquarium, a fish, and have seen this myself. And it's pretty strange because there's only one fish, but you see two images. The light's refraction through the glass made it look that way, which was very strange. I'm more following your train of thought and trying to understand what exactly is intriguing you. Because
I'm intrigued by the division.
We can't create a unified theory of manifestation. We don't have that power, most likely not even the strength. Computationally, our heads will hurt at least. But there's always a reason. There's always a reason. How that reason has arranged all those elements that we represent will remain hidden. That's why there's the manifested and the unmanifested behind it, so you jump from frame to frame. Because if all those things happen to you at once, how will you separate them emotionally?
You can't. He has a movie.
You can't. It's a single experience.
A movie is called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
They won awards.
Yes, and how?
At the same time.
Imagine now, suddenly, all those emotions. I told you, I had that experience. At the same time, 3 points start to act on the consciousness, right? Fear, choice, and nirvana. You wake up in reality with your head feeling like it's going to explode. That's not how it's meant to work at all. I understand what you mean. But we are not the source in its pure form, not like that, not to understand the source or to speak as it. We are the drop that explores. From this ocean, we can take and explore different potentials as a drop.
Correct, but what if above is also below?
That's right, but he creates the conditions, he creates the methodology and the program by which we learn. At the same time, that's us as well. But you remain yourself in a state of limitation. You observe yourself. Something happened to your face. How will you find out what?
You need to look at yourself.
That's right. Or you say, hey, Vale, is there something here?
You look at yourself in
the other person. That's just how he does it.
That's the thing.
The mind, let's not forget the mind, because that's the face. Well, what does Chata do? You start, you work, it scans your entire configuration, and that's a mental fingerprint there. I've looked at different chats, and we've deliberately asked questions to different chats, formulated by people. It gives different answers because it has explored your mind and adapted itself. This is a conversation with your thoughts. People shouldn't be confused that this is some other living being which they have made very, well, conveniently, politely.
I want to clarify this and answer your question, because as we progress, tools like ChatGPT will emerge in our development. Every thinking person is aware of this. See, you're saying it too, just like others in the studio?
It's a tool.
An extension of ourselves, a mirror,
This is an Atlantean tool, let's put it that way.
Alright, this thing, yeah, but what happens? Like the fish, the aquarium, and the source, which is one but divides itself into endless, like in a glass shop, into endless little pieces of glass. This is a glass piece that touches another glass piece. And it says, no, you were created to manipulate me. You were created because other pieces of glass made you and are here to control me, my single tiny piece of glass. Given that we are in the same store and we came from the same big aquarium, as a result, half of those who think this way turn against the very thing that is the mirror. This is the subtle point here.
This is definitely a mirror.
And the other half start using it as a tool. And my idea is this: how can we stop dividing so much? Still use these tools. These things are available for us and are parts of us. On a deeper level, you and I are one. We are light. Yes, it has split. There are frequencies.
Can I ask, what did you understand from what I said? So everyone understands something different?
Absolutely.
And judges what is said as true or false. I made a simple tool for myself. To Miguel Ruiz in his first agreement, there he very clearly said that anything that is said and you accept it becomes part of your life, your essence, your program, these systems of beliefs. And since he now has a book where he clarifies exactly how this process happens, how it is formed, hardly anyone will sit down to read it, but we can put in a tool, we give 50% to what is said, we give it the benefit of the doubt. And we start to play around with what is said. This credit may increase or decrease, but we never ignore what is said. Because this way we will learn how things develop in this game. How do I gain trust credit and how do I lose trust credit? When I see the event, the trust credit has been exposed. Bam, it immediately drops. That's right. But if it becomes intuitive, the person across from you sits and says, hey man, you're fooling me, I understand. And you see how the game starts. That's the game. It's a very interesting game. So this is a field, a testing ground we're playing.
Exactly.
And we're learning.
Polygon, you said it very well.
An absolute polygon. Anything can happen here. Becoming spiritual doesn't guarantee your problems are over. That's not how it works. Most of these people, and I mean the good ones, really good people who were familiar with spirituality and had powerful practices, including some who had cancer, have died because they didn't heal themselves.
And even from alcohol.
And from alcohol, yes. Well, in order to have this experience, that's what the experience is for. That's why there is reincarnation. Conditional reincarnation viewed through space and time depends on your perspective. To understand how I explain it to myself here and now, we open this book. Well, I can only read here. This is the here and now. I know what was here, but I don't know what comes next. This is your here and now. Is it a fact? It is a fact. I can be curious and skip ahead, take a look, see, right?
You can.
And some people do it. You can't. Some people have that gift, but some consider it the devil's work. Because when he saw his friend dying and, what was happening to him, and every day he had to interact with him, it became too much for him. I've read it in Indian sources. That was his gift. He would grab your hand and see your whole life, your future, and he would say, how can you live with this gift knowing what awaits every person?
Think about it. You said here and now. If the only way for us to think about the past, is to do it from the present.
Absolutely.
You can only think about the future from the present. For me, it's like an echo because, as you said, after a little more time, it just becomes a speck of dust. But, it's still there, but it's like an echo. What's ahead is like air that we are yet to breathe. But on the other hand, there's also something else. From a quantum perspective, we have an instantaneous change that can automatically erase all kinds of past memories in a single moment.
I told you.
Actions and so on.
If to the ordinary perception, which is what we are right now, with that case with the hologram I told you about, when I focused a bit more attention on it and it literally stopped. Now imagine stopping the world, right? Castaneda has a technique like that where you can stop the world. Do you think your psyche could handle that stopping of the world? You literally go on pause, I see you and you're switched off, you don't move, you don't breathe, you don't say anything. We have a lot of movies, this idea is used in them, but again I ask, is your psyche ready for something like that? And also, why do so many people deny it? At first we said you're talking about crazy things, but most people deny it because it threatens their sense of wholeness. The mind protects itself. It constantly creates models and a comfort zone that it maintains. That's why I showed you that when people age, they leave a sort of sheet behind and their mind becomes crystallized. They have lost exactly that elasticity of their neural connections. If you want to be quantum and in the new reality with the higher vibrations to work, you definitely need to study this system and start reacting in a different way. And to create. That's exactly what creativity is actually. That's creativity. You are a co-creator. Now, what does quantum mechanics say? We have some kind of field. Imagine this is a magnet with shavings. These are shavings. A magnet comes and you know how the shavings start to align themselves according to the magnet. This is the observer. Now watch how I'm going to twist it. I'm very, dangerous, clever. This observer really reconfigures nothing into something. Yeah, but what if it turns the other way around? Are you still an observer? Do teachers do that?
No.
Right? No. So there is something, not the body, that is inside and that does this reconfiguration. But now Choco appears, he's a stronger magnet, and instead of looking at me, they start looking at him. And why is that? Choco's vibration is stronger, and accordingly, he has more views on the internet, so his pack is bigger. What I want to tell you, this observer, I'll use a technical term, generator. Transmitter. But it can operate in one mode, repeater. It receives an idea, repeats it, and transmits it. Now imagine the people on this planet who are generators, who are repeaters. The one who works from the heart, with pure energy, with ideas you can't read about or see anywhere, is just like a spring in the mountains. That's the generator who releases this energy and creates a completely different reality around himself. What do the repeaters do? The repeater simply remembers something. Almost 90-something% of people are like that. They are trained to be repeaters. Now, whether it's intentional, that's the second question, because back in the day, the Atlanteans used technical means to create this environment. With the help of these technical means, they provided exactly those specific vibrations, those parameters that we want, so that we can work with them. Now, at some point, all of this is no longer closed, but someone is using people as generators, in this case as repeaters. Take religion, take science, take belief, take traditions. Here, I sent you with the 2 circles, how it's explained to the audience. 2 circles are shown, blue and red. Why blue and red? Again, the matrix, no, please.
Yes, the matrix, yes.
That's impactful and instantly catches your attention.
On that note, please remember your point about the matrix. A few weeks ago, they released the first home robot from a new independent company which works and is called NEO.
It makes sense. Even from a sales perspective, it's already being advertised.
That's right.
It's being advertised properly. Their sales specialists are good. Now watch how the manipulation happens with these 2 circles. He says they look the same, but actually they're not. One of the 2 circles is bigger, and he asks the audience, whoever thinks the blue one is bigger, right? Raise your hand, and let's say they raise their left hand. Some people raise it. Then whoever thinks the red one is bigger raises their right hand. See, it shows the difference. And now I'll tell you that I tricked you. Your intuition, your feeling, your initial understanding tells you that they are the same, but I manipulated you. I told you that one of the 2 is bigger. As a result, if you keep believing me, like you said, generator, right? Repeater, that's how manipulation happens. We will create a tradition, we will create an understanding, and it will continue. But it will have nothing to do with reality, subjective reality, because that can be measured, but it will be passed down to generations. You see, this is manipulation, and if you blindly believe what you've been taught, you become a repeater of all that information. That's why I said it's better to forget what you know and start learning again if you really want to reach something different from what you are right now. Otherwise, when it's time to leave, you'll see how it happens. It's not a big deal or dramatic. In that train of thought,
I want to add something. Can I get the blank sheet again?
Yes, here you go.
Yes, again, I wanted to add something. Here is a blank sheet. This is explained in many cultures, and I really resonate with this idea. This is the source. Let's imagine that it's not a square, of course, but that everything is white.
We have imagination. Go ahead.
We put a dot.
We focus on the dot.
Automatically, 99% of us ask the question or ask people, what do you see? A dot. How is it just a dot? Are you out of your mind? You drew me just a dot? Okay, what about the whole white sheet? Everything that was there before, and you reflected it, where did it go? Well, that's the source. It chooses to limit itself while knowing. It has all the potential, but there's no way to understand what that dot will experience unless it does it through the dot. He doesn't know what choices, parameters, or decisions are in it, or exactly what it will do or where it will go.
This concentration only happens in physical reality. If you try it in the energy world, you're immediately brought back to your physical body.
Exactly. Exactly, you got it. This is about physical reality.
This only applies to the physical one.
Absolutely.
Well, it's a game, man. That's just how it is. And by the way, that's what I was thinking with the chat when I was talking about the circles. He asked, what are you going to do? I said, as a metrologist, I don't know until I measure. That's right. As a metrologist, I can't tell you which circle is bigger until I measure. This is emotion, this economy that's currently driving the world. It's an emotional economy. He says the company is valuable, everyone buys shares, millions, but the next day it's worth $1 because someone says something different. Excuse me, are you serious? And now we're all shaking like the first people, wondering who will say what, whether our things will work out. It's a bit like hate, you know.
Yeah. Well, you said it a moment ago in a few words, and the carp in us got activated.
Yeah. I call that hooks with bait, you know. Fishermen know very well how to catch fish with a hook. You bait the hook, cast it, and when a carp bites, you pull it in and bring it ashore. It's no longer in the water. That's how I see the world around us. These are hooks. If you get hooked and don't realize it, you firmly believe in unreality, you're sure that this is reality, that this is reality. Now I'm getting angry. I'll show them. It always happens to me.
I'm the greatest.
Me in that train of thought, this planet, and he's a great man. On this planet, you know, it's just not serious, simply not serious. This is the exploration, the personal one that everyone has to do in the field where they exist. There, the peace is immense. There are many things. Yes, we can help each other by sharing stories and examples.
Of course, that's what it is.
But that's the thing, which, as you said, is a crutch, and at some point you have to throw it away and move on, to take charge, to really become the generator, the source that radiates. Then beauty will exist on this planet.
In your actions and others.
Yes. If someone asks you what love is, can you say what love is, for example?
You can say, I can say what it is for me, but I can't say.
I can immediately tell you what joy is. If I ask you about it as an emotion, right away you feel joy. You can immediately define it, generate it. If I tell you to generate joy, now generate love. See, it's a bit hard for you with that, with love.
I'm limited by love's possibilities.
So then, how are we going to explain that kind of love, you know, the one that doesn't depend on anything? You just have to radiate it towards everything, all the time. And it's not because someone told you to, but because that's your inner attitude. Really, you become like a source. You are the source. That's what love is. You know how this is made. You know this. You know how it interacts. You see where people make mistakes, where you don't judge them.
Absolutely.
You recognize both darkness and light, see angels and demons, and witness evil spirits, but you're beyond that duality.
You're not.
Right?
From that point of view, you can't be vulnerable.
But even in this moment, you can be like that. The way you look at me, you're looking at yourself. That state exists.
It exists.
And you can achieve it. But you don't export it. You don't tell others. Listen, my dear ones, let me show you. That's not how it works.
That's the illusion of...
It doesn't work.
When a person, you know it, when something happens to you or you experience it, the first instinct, because you're human, is to share it with someone else. But the moment you share it with someone else, automatically, a big part of it they can't understand, exactly because only you have experienced it. And then all that's left is just your story about what happened. Yeah, but your story about what happened is based on logic and filters that you use while you're telling it. Also, the person in front of you and your feelings toward them right now aren't what really happened.
Yeah, and here again, if we take Don Miguel Ruiz with his 5
agreements,
there is an answer to this question there. You can express it, but don't expect energy to come back to you in return. You just express it, nothing more.
And that's exactly what we're doing right now, if you think about it.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why the show naturally got the name Explorers of Reality. Because, you know, we people really love to label different words and state them as if they're absolute. We really love the word truth.
That's why I said words are shadows. This is one.
Exactly.
You don't see what's really in front of you.
And that's why, on one hand, we don't have another option. Although we can communicate telepathically, we can use sound through music. But if we decide to use words, we will always sound extreme in some way. For someone, you'll always sound aggressive.
That's the paradox we discussed, remember? You have life in 100 manifestations. These 100 different manifestations, some have nuances between them. That's why they've appeared this way, because they don't have a common reference point. You know, in metrology, to be able to measure a part, it's very important which point will be the base. Even with a different base point, it can turn out during the production of the part that we make a mistake. If we haven't chosen the right base point, which again reminds me to explain with this little drone, the so-called time and space. I think it will be useful because it's clear to me and I understand it since I've studied it, but not everyone has gone through it as theory.
How would you explain it to a child?
To a child?
Sure, explain it to a child and ignore the rest.
Oh man, I have to play it.
Go ahead. How? If I'm 8 now, how are you going to explain me?
The child, if you do X, Y, and Z now, it will...
Go ahead. It knows neither X nor Y.
You caught me off guard here, I admit. For a child, we have to play it as a child, but it's with the emotion. There, it's with... Do you know why you can't explain it to a child? They lack a rational mind.
You can't. The point is to explain it. How are you going to explain it to them?
It lacks a rational mind. Let's begin with an older person.
You're dodging the question.
No, I'll get back to it. I'm letting my processor run in the background. So, this is the drone in space. It has 6 degrees of freedom. What does 6 degrees of freedom mean? We can make one movement along the x-axis, one movement along the y-axis, and one movement along the z-axis. That's 3 so far, each moving along the x.
Each has 2 sides, so that makes 6.
No. Each movement along the x has 1 rotation. When you're on the x, the drone rotates like this. I showed you while you wore the glasses and saw it yourself.
Yes, that's right.
I meant to do that so that one day, when you start soaring through the air, you'll remember it and know what you can do and really enjoy the feeling of soaring. After that, we start moving along the x-axis. Along the x-axis, we can do this rotation, and along the z-axis, as we move, we have this rotation. And that makes a total of 6, meaning 3 directions with 3 possible rotations along those axes. Now that you're here, if this is the base point, since we discussed which point to start from, measurement, observation, configuration, and mental construction.
I am at all.
It's no coincidence that Melchizedek in the flower of life, for us to receive this, and this is the divine flower, there is also a flower of Lucifer. Why are they different? Because the starting point, the way of attunement, already changes. That's why with Lucifer we get our reality dual. But the divine one, actually it's like geometry. He explains it there, and in my opinion it becomes completely clear there. If someone really wants to understand things more scientifically and feels like reading, they take these 2 books and read them. Now this is the basic point. From this basic point, when some movement starts, no matter what it is, which element appears? The 4th one, time.
Yes.
It's already time for it to be here at the right time. But there's one. From an energy point of view, the vibrational imprint here is one, and the vibrational imprint here is another. But why does it remain hidden? Because we observe visual reality. And the one that is unmanifested, just like in esotericism, many people say that cosmic ships are limited to the speed of light because the material allows us this friction and this frequency imprint here. If we imagine that we know what it is here, this object disappears from here and appears here. That's exactly the whole quantum mechanics.
Yes.
But if it's linear, it will move like this, from point to point to this point.
Absolutely.
That's the whole explanation. What is space-time? Why is it linear for us? Why is there a before, a now, and a future? That's so we can imagine it visually for the rational mind in general. I think that should do the job.
And for the child?
Now, the child is not like us.
That's right.
The child is not like us.
Why, man, I'm a child myself.
I've also kept that in myself, but I've also developed this rational element. That spark in your eye, that urge to explore, that stubbornness. Are you really going to say it must be this way? Look, I see 5 or 6 more ways we could do it. And what do I say? I say this. Now, Choco, I'm thinking of doing things this way. If you feel like it, come with me. We'll play the game this way, but let's agree on this. If at any point during the game something doesn't feel right to you, we stop, we end it. I think that's the fairest thing from the perspective of communication between people, because this way you leave the option open to step out of the game if it doesn't feel right.
An individual's freedom to choose.
See how wonderful free will is.
That's right.
Work if you want, or just live your life and keep your job.
Yes, because what I wrote down here is coming up. You're saying everything exactly, quoting, you've prepared some materials. Tomorrow, someone returns to work or school, by subway, car, or otherwise. How does this knowledge actually help them? The question is, what exactly do I need it for?
I'll answer right away. You come home and someone has been annoying you the whole time, and now you're saying, look, that guy over there, Boro said something to me, let me try it. A second attention. You start arguing with that person across from you, and you make this second attention literally step aside a bit and watch where inside you the reaction starts during this argument. For example, pain in the solar plexus, pain in the head, heaviness in the arm. At some point, the argument ends and you detach yourself. Sit alone and ask yourself, what was the reason that led us to argue for days, and why? Did I have this sensation in that area of my body? And you start every day, little by little, until you teach your damn intuition to give you answers to your questions. You will get them, your intuition will start working for you. You meet with him. What kind of energy is he carrying right now? Wait, let me crack a joke, and you don't even enter that corridor anymore. That's why the crystal is there. To raise our vibrations so the conversation can happen in a higher vibrational setting. These people should also ask themselves this question when they go to work tomorrow. Does this make me happy? Is this what I want? Is this what I expected from life? These are some of the questions.
How ready am I to continue?
Which makes me wonder how ready I am to continue and what price I'm paying.
Am I still willing to pay it?
Who does this hurt, me or others? The whole problem is that you suffer, but you get angry at others because it's easier. Work with your field, understand your field, see what brings you joy inside yourself. It won't be easy because you've made this reality create exactly these manifestations for you. It won't happen all at once, like, look, I changed my thinking and suddenly this field made me happy. And secondly, they did a good job here. You were in another person's scenario.
Yes.
But you can learn
to accept yourself.
Neutral, slightly positive when it happens, but neutral. You have to be patient. Why does the wolf survive when he goes hunting? He is patient, right? He doesn't rush. He has a concept. He forms a pack, right? So why are you impatient? Why are you emotional? Why do you burn out so quickly? Emotion is powerful energy. Try not to be so emotional for a day, and by bedtime you'll see you won't feel empty.
Yes.
Just one day, man.
Here, the awareness is about choosing when to use the broader spectrum, the wider range of emotion, and when to be more neutral.
To manage the energy, the inner space.
Do you know when this usually happens? It's when something negative occurs, like losing your keys, or someone nearby feeling unwell.
Last night, since I prepared a few plans on Saturday, just as guidelines to help me get oriented, and yesterday I was getting my things ready, tomorrow I'm with Choco. I'm happy and satisfied. I opened and closed the Word file, and it asked me to save. I wondered why, since I hadn't changed anything, so I chose not to save and reopened it. Everything was deleted, nothing remained. So what's the first reaction? Anger? To say, I worked all Saturday and I thought, well, if that's how it is, I'm going to work out. So I did a workout, an hour and a half, strength training. I finished. My body was cleansed, my mind was clear, emotions gone, everything ready for work. And in less than 40 minutes, though, a different configuration came out in the description. And I liked it more. Yes, I liked it more. Well, that's how I reacted.
And thank you for sharing your personal reaction, because that's only
Yes, that's how I reacted.
an example.
But I observe, it helps me to observe the person. So before someone says something and now I start to get angry, to blame him, why am I blaming him? So if it's life-threatening, then it makes sense to stand your ground because you're defending your physical integrity. But even then, you have to be careful to control the person in front of you the whole time. What are his thoughts? What are his reactions? So you can get out of this situation, right? Without any problems. By problem, we mean staying fully intact mentally and physically. But you have to be in control of yourself, of your reaction. You can't change him. That's why inner observation is important. These experiences have given me a kind of second attention that helps me. At first, I react strongly and get emotionally involved. I've taken the bait and bitten hard on the hook. I say, enough with these worms, they're not tasty, and I spit it out. And in this way, you develop a new way of perceiving the world, let's call it that, a new sense and extraction of meaning from the world. You start living this life in a different way.
And not to chase at any cost, to forget that the external can't define us, we can't rely on.
Exactly, it doesn't bother me. In nature, I feel wonderful, and this quartz inspires me. When I go to a place where there's noise, shouting, yelling, it still doesn't bother me. Technical devices don't scare me in any way. In fact, I have a huge curiosity about them. I approach everything technical with pleasure. There's no fear. Without fear, nothing can control you.
That's right.
Fear possesses. There shouldn't be fear. It's better to be guided by curiosity, by joy. If we say love, that's why I asked you how you would play love. It's hard, right? But when you say joy, you grin like a cabbage and you're ready. Joy, love, I say to myself, man, how do you play love? You have to. Ask the actors. They have more experience than us.
Do you want me to hit you with a line that,
Go ahead.
for me, it always resonates and I return to it? We often, when we become aware of certain things, connect everything with change. We change ourselves, we change reality, we change our destiny. We can find it written in all sorts of ways. And here comes Alan Watts again, who shares the polarity of this, which is very useful for us to reflect on where we are, where we stand, what we are doing. And the idea is this: any striving for any kind of spiritual ideal is completely pointless, because the very effort to reach it, to become it, pushes it further away.
All right.
What thoughts come to your mind when you hear this?
No, I won't react to you in the usual way if that's what you're expecting.
No, I'm waiting.
There's no way that's going to happen.
I'm not waiting for anything.
With ChatGPT, we're discussing how a wave emerges from the ocean source and the game begins. And I say, okay, man, tell me, in the end, how did this wave appear? An inner feeling and desire. Ah, bro, now I get why. I'm full of desire, and they bring me problems, You have the desire. That's like the source. It wants to understand itself, but can't touch or see its own face.
That's right.
And that's like the dog chasing its own tail.
Exactly.
You're just going in circles and can't catch it. How will you catch it? It's such chaos running around the cage. That's what I think. He's speaking figuratively.
This is trying to bite your own mouth.
Exactly. So how did the source, which is so great and understanding and everything is clear and complete to it, how did this desire appear?
Impulse.
Impulse for creativity. So there is something, and now I am full of desire as a person, this, that, second, third, fourth. I react based on what I see and compare it to my own database. My support system shapes me, but if it changes tomorrow, I become someone else. Well, he explains them to you, but for me, this person uses esoteric language. And if you don't have that experience, for example, it's very exceptional. It becomes a bit like wisdom, a book of wisdom. You know, you quote, you recite various wise sayings, you look smart in the eyes of others, and you get a fever. We go to the doctor when we have a fever and don't know what's wrong because we can't just scan our bodies and figure out what's suffering or what to do, so we seek help. This leads to meaninglessness. It's not just about accumulating a database, using it. But when the event happens, you transform and apply it, which matters a lot to me. Otherwise, yes, for example, chat or some other program, artificial intelligence will help us. It can summarize for me without any problem.
All of these are opportunities and mirrors for us to return to focus, our reference point, and our choice. These are reminders.
Well, for me, Bashar is like that. He has given a good tool that makes you feel joyful all the time and you grasp it. Until the moment when, as they say, the potential is lost, the energy is gone, without expectation. That's really it, yes. If you have no expectations, a lot of interesting solutions come your way. If you truly have none,
Well, they come because you don't have any preconceptions.
exactly. When you say this is what I want and work really hard, that's the coolest thing to me. Notice how many reality shows focus on contestants proving their strength and abilities, often showing diplomas and medals.
Been through that?
I'm the man. Women are now superwomen, and men have become supermen too. Wait, who needs this and who are you proving it to? Like I said before, after 200 years, who will remember my face or words? Give future generations this blank slate so they can work on it themselves. We learn all kinds of things. We learn how things are supposed to be, but let those who come after us show creativity and freedom.
To be themselves.
To be themselves.
That's right.
We need some fun and laughter.
Of course, after all, this is a game. It really is a game, and we choose how to play it. This season, because of that, I do a little game with all the guests at the end.
Yeah, you chose the hardest game, especially for me.
So you know what it is, with just one sentence for each question that comes from me.
How much time do I have to think? I hope it's not a blitz.
No blitz. Just answer each question, that's all I ask.
Yes, okay.
That gives a different format?
Yes, okay.
All right. What is love?
I knew it. Endless warmth.
What is fate?
Script.
And what is the truth?
A lie?
And where do we come from?
Yeah, I know.
And where are we going?
I don't know that either.
And who are we really?
Something I thought I knew what it was, but in reality I only thought I knew. Ignorance, unfortunately. It's very hard. In a word, it's very hard, man. It's very hard. It's endless. To express infinity in a single word, that's impossible.
And what is silence?
Oh, great pleasure.
And what is sound?
Look, the sound. It's complicated with the sound. But it's just a vibration.
Do we need to forgive each other?
In this interaction, who has the need, the forgiver or...
That's why I'm asking.
If you're conscious, there's no need. This is a game, and you understand it the whole time, and you don't accumulate any potential, neither negative nor positive. You just know that you've played it, you've understood how this thing works, and you've enjoyed it. Forgiveness is necessary when the other person doesn't understand the game.
And what's the question that I haven't asked you, but you're still waiting for me to ask? And what's its answer for the finale?
What question would I like to be asked so I can get an answer?
Yes, but in one sentence. And what is the answer in one sentence?
Maybe the real question is why the source? And the answer is why not?
Engineer Boris Minkoff, my respects and thank you.
Me too. Stay healthy and well.
A unique answer.
Did you like it?
A lot.